are going to be starting later on, but let's welcome the Sabbath with a lesson. And I just chose a good lesson for our Vespers so that we can learn more about the sealing process. We have been talking all about the sealing of the 12,000 from tribes of Israel. But today we want to really go deep into it, because that subject is a really complicated subject which we should dwell on, because it involves our salvation. So we are going to go deeper, especially to see exactly what is happening in the sealing process. And I hope we all learn together and refer to scripture everywhere we can find evidence which will, further enlighten us into seeing what God has in store for us. So the sealing message, we start in Revelation chapter 7. Let's go to Revelation chapter 7. We get the sealing process of the 144,000. Right, read for me from verse 1.
And after these things, I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of God. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels, to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, Hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads. And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel.
Today we are not dwelling much on seeing what the seal. We know the seal is the 3 seals which we have always been hammering about: God, New Jerusalem, and the glorious star containing Jesus' new name. We know that from early writing, chapter page 15. But today we want to see exactly what is happening in the sealing process. The sealing process, the servants of God are sealed first in the house of God. That much we know from James chapter 4 verse 17. It says, 1 Peter chapter 4 verse 17, it says, read it.
For the time is come that judgment must begin at the house of God.
Right. So judgment, which is the sealing, it begins at the house of God. Right? So what happens when it begins there?
And if it first begin at us, what shall the end be of them that obey not the gospel of God?
So it starts with the house of God, and then it goes outside the house of God to those who are unbelievers, that obey not the voice of God, which is unbelievers. They don't worship, but the sealing also will involve them. So when it involves them, everyone will be looking for religion, and while looking for religion, God is also going to extend the judgment outside the house of God. So now, today, we want the process in which, how is the sealing in the house of God? That's what we are debating. And once, if we get time, we decide, we investigate who are these people being sealed, to find them from the Bible, to find exactly who these ones are and where are they, where do we find them. So all those topics, they are very important for us to learn about. So when we are sealing, the first thing we should know is that the sealing process of the servants of God is divided into 4 parts. So I've put them into 4 parts, right? The very first part, we have had a terminology called the sealing of the first fruits, right? So the first fruit, the sealing of the servants of God, and in the 7th chapter of Revelation chapter 7, we saw it. It is the first fruits harvest which is done in the house of God. So we have a term called first fruits, and it's done in the house of God. We have seen that. The first portion of that, there are 4 parts of the sealing. The first portion is, first of all, before sealing, God seals a first part of the harvest. And the first part of the harvest, I have put it in brackets, he seals the prophet first. So I have divided the sealing process into 4 parts. The very first portion is the prophets, right? And the prophets are under a class called wave shift. So why I'm saying, then we need to go back to the harvest right. Where is the harvest right? To Leviticus chapter 23, so that we find a portion which reflects to the first portion, which I have classified as the prophets. So in the first place, we have a bracket, sealed first of the prophets. Now let's go to Exodus chapter, first of all, Exodus chapter 23, verse 19.
The first of the first fruits of thy land
Right?
thou shalt bring into the house of the Lord thy God.
So we saw when they were harvesting, there is a portion which was called first of the first fruit. So we have got 2 things there. We have got what is called first of first fruit. But in Revelation chapter 7, we found what was called first fruit. You see, there is a difference there of a portion called first of first fruit. Right? Before, go into the field. Go into the field. You find the field, when it is near harvest, it comes with the grains that are ripe first, before the rest of the grains are ripe. But those ones that are ripe first are called first of first fruits. We find it in Exodus chapter 23, verse 19, a terminology called first of first fruit. But what we found in Revelation 7, which pertains to the 144,000, is not first of first fruit. It is what we call first fruit. You see, it's only first fruit. So, but we have a grain which is called first of first fruit. I've seen sometimes when during Sabbath school, there are teacher of teachers. First, these are teachers which are educated separately, which will go and teach the rest of the classes in the church. So even God has arranged our harvest to start with what we call first of first fruit. And we have seen it in Exodus chapter 23, verse 19. Read it again.
The first of the first fruits of thy land
Right?
thou shalt bring into the house of the Lord thy God.
Right. So this group has nothing to do with the 144,000, because the 144,000 are called first fruits. Read, let's see terminology of the 144,000 in Revelation 7.
Verse 4.
Right, verse 4, yeah?
And I heard
Right,
the number of them who were sealed, which
Right.
were sealed.
right,
And there were sealed 144,000
Right.
of all the tribes of the children of Israel.
right?
Of the tribe of Judah,
No. I need where it says which were the first fruits. It was sealed the first fruits. Sealed as servants. Okay. Start from verse 1.
And after these things, I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor the sea, nor on any tree.
Right?
And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God.
Right?
And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels,
Right.
to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, Hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads.
So these are sealed in first. That's why I'm saying they are first fruit. Right? And next verse.
And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel.
Right. So these 144,000 are called first fruits. Now, why do I refer to them as first fruits? Because they are sealed on the third month. When you go to Leviticus chapter 23, you find on the third month, when it is the feast of Pentecost, it's a feast of the third month. Go to to Leviticus 23. Let's hear on the verse for the Pentecost. After verse 10.
And verse 15. And ye shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath.
Right, which
from
is
the
the
day
feast of the Pentecost, which comes after 7 Sabbaths, which start from the Passover. And then the 7th Sabbath, after that 7th Sabbath, the morrow after the Sabbath is the Feast of Pentecost. Now, what is that called? Yeah?
And ye shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath,
Yeah?
from the day that ye brought the sheaf of the wave offering.
Right?
7 Sabbaths shall be complete.
Right?
Even unto the morrow after the 7th Sabbath shall ye number 50 days.
Right?
And ye shall offer a new meat offering unto the Lord.
Right?
Ye shall bring out of your habitations 2 wave loaves of 2/10 deals. They shall be of fine flour. They shall be baken with leaven.
So
And
you see, that's the feast we find 2 wave loaves, which are counted. But the feast of the Passover, there was no counting. Let's go to the feast of the Passover, chapter 23 there, verse 4, verse 5.
In the 14th day
Yeah.
of the first month
Right.
at even is the
Right.
Lord's Passover.
Right.
And on the 15th day of the same month
Right.
is the feast of unleavened bread unto
Right.
the Lord.
Verse 10.
Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, when ye be come into the land which I give unto you,
Right.
and shall reap the harvest thereof, then ye shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits.
Right. So you see, this first fruit, which is at Passover, on the feast of unleavened bread, is the one which is called wave sheaf. So, because why? Read on.
And he shall, and
Right? The new meat offering, right?
verse 10 again.
Verse 10, yeah.
Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them,
Yeah.
when ye be come into the land which I give unto you,
Right?
and shall reap the harvest thereof,
Right?
then ye shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of
Right.
your harvest unto the priest,
Right?
and he shall wave the sheaf
That's
before
where
the Lord.
we have a sheaf which is waved. It's waved at the Passover. But on the 3rd month, after 7 Sabbaths, we have the Feast of Pentecost, a new meat offering, which is 2 counted bread. You see, there is numbering there on the 3rd month. But there in the Passover, there is no numbering. There is a new wave sheaf. They just take a collection of grains and they wave to say that the harvest is about to start. So this is the one that we see on Exodus chapter 23, verse 19. Go back then to Exodus 23.
Verse 19.
Yeah.
The first of the first fruits of
Right.
thy land
Right.
thou shalt bring into the house of the Lord thy God.
Right.
Thou shalt not seethe a kid in his mother's milk.
Right. So we see this first of the first fruit is the one at Passover. That's where there were restrictions of what they should eat. No leaven, no what. And the priest will take it on the morrow after the Sabbath and wave it. But it was representing the first group, which I said group number 1 is in the church, and it is a group of prophets first. Before the group of 144,000 comes, God has to make a first group, which is called wave sheaf or group of prophets. Let's see, when Christ died, there was a group which was on Sunday when he woke up, which woke up with him on Sunday. And that group of saints, when they woke up, they were representing the same grain which was harvested at Passover, not on the 3rd month at Pentecost. Now go to Great Controversy, page 399.
The slaying?
Right, yeah.
The slaying of the Passover lamb was a shadow of the death of Christ.
Right?
Says Paul, Christ our Passover is sacrificed for us. The sheaf of the first fruits,
Right.
which at the time of the Passover was waved before the Lord,
Right.
was typical of the resurrection of Christ.
So we understand this wave sheaf was waved at Passover. We saw it on Exodus chapter 29. Now, Sister White is talking about this sheaf which was waved at Passover. What did it represent? Yeah?
The sheaf of the first fruits, which at the time of the Passover was waved before the Lord,
Right?
was typical of the resurrection of Christ.
Right?
Paul says,
Right?
in speaking of the resurrection of the Lord and all of his people,
Right?
Christ the first fruits,
Right?
afterward, they that are Christ at his coming.
So you see, at the time Christ died, on Sunday when he woke up with a multitude of saints which are in the bracket of the wave sheaf. As we saw in Exodus chapter 29, that bracket of the saints which were resurrected on Passover week are in that bracket called wave sheaf. But he says Christ was resurrected, and these ones are first fruits. After that, they that are his at his coming. When he is coming now, there is a group of they that are his, that are also called wave sheaf, that are harvested when? At Passover week. Not on the week where the 144,000 are harvested at Pentecost. That's why we should keep these feasts 3 times a year, because they are the ones God will follow when he harvests the house of God. So we saw at Passover, there is a reason why Christ arose with the saints. These saints were all called wave sheaf. Where were they taking that terminology from? From the harvest, right? We saw in Exodus chapter 29, where the priest was being ordered to harvest a grain which was called wave sheaf, which was harvested when? At Passover, and which was representing the saints which arose with Christ at Passover. But we see there are other saints which will be his at his coming, or which will be in the judgment of the living, which will be alive, because those ones which woke up with Christ are in the judgment, are the first fruits of the dead. Then we need the first fruits of the living, which are they that are his at his coming. What will he be coming to? He has a group of the judgment of the living, which is a group of prophets, which is called wave sheaf. Now, so when we go back to where we were in the Exodus chapter, let me go back to the page. Exodus chapter 29, we started with it, isn't it? So, shall we go back again on this same page? We saw that these were harvested at Passover, and on Great Controversy, page 399, we have to finish another point there. Yeah?
Paul says, in speaking of the resurrection of the Lord and of all his people, Christ the first fruits, afterward they that are Christ at his coming.
Right.
Like the wave sheaf, which was the first ripe grain gathered before the harvest.
Right.
Christ is the first fruits. Christ is the first fruits of that immortal harvest of redeemed ones, that at the future resurrection shall be gathered into the garner of God.
Right. So you see, there is a group which arose with Christ at Passover, which was represented by the grain which was being waved by the priest at Passover. So this is the first group. I said those who are being sealed are arranged in 4 groups. The first group is the group of the wave sheaf, or of the prophets. And who are these people? these people, I will say, they are usually, what are prophets? They are always martyrs. People who are killed or who are persecuted by those whom they have come to save. Did you hear that? I identified them. They are persecuted by the very people that they have been sent to come and save. Just like the wave sheep who were with Christ. Christ was persecuted by those who he had come to save. So that's why he's a great prophet. He is the group of prophets which were harvested with the saints who woke up at Passover. And when they woke up, they all went to heaven and they were ordained and came back on the same day. And they received their Holy Spirit on that day. They were empowered. That's why I say all power was given to me. Now go ye therefore and preach. You understand? So what is this group of called worship? These are a group selected by God already in the house of God. If we believe we are in the sealing process, so the sealing starts with a group first of people who are not counted, who are in the group called worship, which Christ said after that, they that are his at his coming. So this is the group of worship. And we saw it in Exodus chapter 23, verse 19. The priest continued on the Passover to be waving, representing this group. And I said it's a group of those who are imbued with the power initially given the message by God to cultivate the next group. And we know the next group which will come after that. We saw on the day of Pentecost, 50 days after Passover, there is a group called wave loaves. And wave loaves are a different plant, a different grain, different from the Passover one. The Passover grain is barley. But in the Feast of Pentecost, if you go to the weather which is being used by God, is Palestinian weather. That weather at Pentecost or on the month of Sivan, on the day of Pentecost, 50 days after the morrow after the Sabbath, when the wave sheaf was waved, that two wave loaves is beckoned from wheat. So what we have harvested at the time of the Pentecost is wheat. What is the harvest at the time of the Passover? It's barley. So the wave sheaf are represented by barley, but the wave loaves are baked from wheat, representing the 144,000. We'll deal with them separately, but we are still dealing with the first group called the wave sheaf. Go again to Exodus chapter 34, verse 26. Right? That group called wave sheaf.
The first of the first fruits of thy land thou shalt bring unto the house of the Lord thy God.
Right?
Thou shalt not seethe a kid.
So you see, the first of the first fruit is being repeated again in Exodus chapter 20. That's the group again, the wave sheaf. We have a very special group in the church. We don't have everybody the same. Because that's why we have a harvest right in Leviticus 23 or in Exodus, as we are seeing. It's representing a special grain when Christ starts to harvest from the church. So when they are harvesting, we see a first group called wave sheaf. So I'm going to give you the other groups. But for today, we want to deal much with the wave sheaf group and what it is. Who are these people in the group of the wave sheaf? Go again in Ezekiel chapter 44, verse 30. Yeah?
And the first of all the first fruits of all things, and every oblation of all, of every sort of your oblations, shall be the priests.
So we have seen these verses. They are talking about the first of first fruits. Because the 144,000 are only first fruits. So when we have 4 groups we have what we call first of first fruits, the wave sheaf. And then the next group is called the first fruits. And what are they? 2 wave loaves, which were offered in verse 15 of Leviticus 23. These are representing the 144,000. We will deal with them separately, like that. But we have to study each group at a time. Yeah? If you want to trace this group called the wave sheaf, or the first of the, this is the one that is in charge of teaching all the people who are going to be in the group of 144,000 from the church. And then we have a third group still from the church. The third group is called second fruits. So where there is no first, there is no second. So we have the first of first fruit, and then we have the first fruits, and then what do we have? The second fruits. So this is the sealing process in the church. But the fourth group, which I will talk about, we have, apart from the second fruits, we have the Gentiles. So those were the sealing in the 4 stages. So today we want to trace only the wave sheaf. Peradventure, if we get time tomorrow, we'll trace the 144,000. We should actually know where they are, because God has got them. He has numbered them. They are in there. They are all programmed in the selling process. It will just not happen just from nowhere like that. It is a sealing process which God has numbered. So there is something I want us to read, which is very interesting. Go to Revelation chapter 7. I want you to read, before you go to chapter 7, go to Genesis chapter 49. Start from verse 16. We want to because we are told that all the 12 tribes are the children of Israel, isn't it? So we know the children of Israel. Want to know them. They are all in Genesis chapter 49. But there should be a child among us, the 12, who represent this group of the wave sheaf. So we want to trace somebody there in the children of Israel, in the children of Jacob. One figure, we want to go with that one figure, who I must teach represent the wave sheaf. But let's see what has happened in that chapter, chapter 49. Start from chapter 49, go to verse 16.
Okay.
Yeah?
Dan shall judge his people.
Right. Wait. There is a group. All the 12 children have been given there. If we get time, there are so many children that we can study. But today I want to start with Dan. Why? Because there is Judah there. Yeah, there is Joseph, there is Dan. I want this particular Dan, Joseph, Judah. They are of significance in the sealing process. But today we are starting with Dan. From the 12 children of Israel, there must be one child representing the wave sheaf. Now we have been told there is a child called Dan who has been given a blessing to judge. Did you hear that? But who judging who? Repeat.
Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel.
Right. He is one of the tribes of Israel. And he's not judging anyone else. Who is he judging? His own people. And who are his own people? The children of Israel. Or the other tribes. We know the tribes are 12. 12 tribes. But one of them has been made a judge. Who has to make sure all the 12 tribes are judged by Dan? He has been given that blessing by Jacob. Right? Because when you read from verse 1, Genesis chapter 49, verse 1.
And Jacob called unto his sons, and said, Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days.
Right?
Gather yourselves together, and hear, ye sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel your father.
Right.
Reuben, thou art my...
So, verse 1, we will study about Reuben, about other people, but want to know their significance in the 12 tribes of Israel that are being sealed from the church. Judgment begins in the house of God. But we want now to, verse 1, just repeat verse 1. Yeah?
And Jacob called unto his sons, and said, Gather yourselves together,
Right?
that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days.
Did you hear that? All the blessings that are being given to those 12 children had to do with the last day. Is it? The last day. So, whatever is happening amongst us, brethren, has been prescribed by Jacob when he was giving his children blessings. It has to do with the 12 tribes of Israel which are being judged. But we are interested in knowing then if the 144,000, the wife sheaf, or the first of first fruits are not part of the 144,000, and they are a group in the church which is being judged first. And God starts by a group which I said a wife sheaf, which is the first of first fruits, or which is the prophets, right? They should have a significance in the 12 children. So we have found someone who is called Dan, D-A-N, who has been one of the children of Jacob, who is only to judge all the other 12 tribes. And of all the 12 children, Dan is one of them, right? I want you to count, just to count the names. Each verse from verse 1, let's see the names, right? Which are the names?
Reuben.
Reuben, one. Next.
Simeon.
Simeon is another one. Next.
Levi.
Levi is another one. Next.
Judah.
Judah is another one. Next.
Zebulun.
Zebulun is another one. Next.
Issachar.
Issachar is another one.
Dan.
Dan is another one.
Gad.
Gad is another one.
Asher.
Asher is another one.
Naphtali.
Naphtali is another one.
Joseph.
Joseph. Did you see there are 12, including Dan? But the mystery is that when you go to Revelation chapter 7, Dan is not there. And who?
Benjamin.
Benjamin is. There are 12, including Benjamin. And Dan is part of the 12. Did you hear? When they are sitting in front of Jacob, there are 12, including Dan. But when you go to Revelation 7, there are still 12, but Dan is not there. Let's go to Revelation 7 and see who did the 12,000 from which tribe and which tribe. I only want to know the names of the tribes to see, because there are 12, but Dan is not sounding from that list, right? Let's verse 5, yeah?
Reuben.
Reuben is one of the 12,000.
Asher.
We are in Revelation 7. Go to Revelation 7. One, Reuben, and next, Asher, right?
Naphtali.
Now, we are checking if Dan is there in that list, right?
Naphtali.
Naphtali.
Manasseh. Simeon.
Simeon.
Levi.
Levi.
Issachar.
Issachar.
Zebulun.
Zebulun.
Joseph.
Joseph.
Benjamin.
Benjamin. Where is Dan? But I had another new name there. Joseph's son called Manasseh. Did you see that Joseph came to replace Dan there? To make still, the 12 tribes are still 12. But Dan is not there. But there is an introduction of Manasseh. Manasseh, who is the son of Joseph, to make up the number 12 tribes. Where's Dan? Where's Dan? Did you hear that in the blessing of Dan, Dan has been blessed by a blessing of being a judge. Now I'm saying the reason why Dan is not in that list is because we have identified his blessing. And we have seen it's one of the children of Jacob, which was there in Genesis 49. but it's not there in Revelation chapter 7. But we have seen the sealing process starts with a group called worship. So what is this worship? We said they are prophets. And who represent this group definitely is Dan. For all the children of Israel were there for a purpose. So we see a tribe of Dan in the first of first fruits, represented by Dan. These ones are sealed first before the 144,000. When I say they're prophet, they've got a message. That message is for the 144,000 to be sealed. Did you see that? They are also a group which is harvested, Abib, which is the month of the Passover, where Christ woke up with those saints. They are in the group of the worship, and they were harvested when did they were resurrected at Passover, isn't it? But this is the first month. Then after that we have the third month, which is the Nisan, which we are heading to, the month of Nisan. In the next new moon we have the month of Nisan, and we are going to be ready for the day of Pentecost, which comes on the 31st of May, which is the 50th day from Passover. So here, the tribe of Dan, we see it selected by God as a judge. We saw it in Genesis chapter 49, verse 16. Dan shall judge his people. So what is it? Judgment begins in the house of God. So God uses a judge, is it? We have Peter said, judgment begins in the house of God. So who is God going to use to spread the message to the 144,000? Dan, obviously, because he's the judge. We saw it in Genesis chapter 49. Dan is the judge who is given the message for the 144,000. So this is how God is going to follow the order. That's why the whole of the Old Testament, Exodus, Deuteronomy, Leviticus, everything was the harvest, right? There was a purpose. It was not just to fill them with food and harvest and eat. It was a sketch of what God is going to follow when he's harvesting his people. That's why we have been told that they that are there his at his coming, they have a group representing them, and this group is called worship. Now we saw it when they woke up, when Christ was resurrected. The worship group, they went to heaven, were ordained, and came back on that same day. So now we have been told. So it means when we know about the worship, that there is a first of first fruit, then we will dwell on Dan today. Today we have to study about Dan. For we have identified Dan represents the group which is harvested at Passover, which is called the group of worship or prophets. Let's check from Joel chapter 2, verse 23. Is there any later rain given at the first month? For the later rain, we know each month should be the third month, which is the day of Pentecost. But the first month, which is Passover, where we have seen this group being harvested, waved by the priest, is there a later rain there? Let's read from verse 2, verse 23.
Be glad then, ye
then,
children of Zion,
yes,
and rejoice in the Lord your God.
right.
For he hath given you the former rain moderately,
Yeah.
and he will cause to come down for you the rain, the former rain, and the latter rain in the first month.
Do you see there is a later rain coming in the first month? But it's only for a particular group, the worship, and those who are harvested at Passover. Like it is the first of first fruits in the Old Testament. This is how Christ, when he was resurrected with the saints who were resurrected with him at Passover, it is exactly the time the worship is going to be harvested. In the time when Christ comes, he finds also a group of judgment of the first of first fruits of the living, who are selected as worship. Otherwise, there was no reason for writing all those harvests if it doesn't mean anything. Because you can understand the New Testament if you understand the Old. If you don't understand the Old, the New Testament is just Greek. So we don't need Greek. We need to start from the basis of the Old Testament. That's why Sister White says the Jewish economy has not yet been comprehended. For it has got all these things that we are studying. For us to know where we are going and get the seal complete and know exactly what God is doing. So here we are going today, maybe we take it halfway or we take it fully to study the character of Dan. Where is Dan? We will trace all of them, including even the 144,000, even the greater multitude. But let's trace the tribe of Dan. Right? Read from Genesis 49, verse 18 there. We want to see,
Okay.
is Dan going to be the one God is waiting for to start igniting fire or to start igniting the message which will seal the 144,000? Listen to that, verse 18.
I have waited for thy salvation, O
Right?
Lord.
Mm-hmm. Do you hear God say? I, who is that I? Dan, have waited for thy salvation, O God. So it means when God starts in the church, he starts with the first one, and the first one being Dan. And what does Dan say to God? I've waited for thy salvation, O God. Do you see? Let's probably study to see, because when Jacob had 12 sons, they all didn't come from one wife. No. You remember the story where he was cheated by his father-in-law when he worked 7 years working for Rachel. Instead, was given Leah, but still wanted his Rachel back. So you remember that story. Rachel was married. He worked again. Another 7 years was given Rachel. You understand? Now he had 2 wives. 2 wives, which is Leah and Rachel. It was not only to enjoy, to have lots of wives. It was an allegory, or it was a prophecy of the future, where we should get these 12 children. They did not come from one woman. The first children came from Leah, the first wife, who is the correct one. The first wife is the what you call it, legal. You understand? But when you go to the second wife, it's not legal in the Bible. It's an apostasy, isn't it? So we had 2 wives there. The first one, which is Leah, representing the house of God. Right? So that's where the children will come from Leah. But there are other children which he delivered with Rachel. And these ones also are coming from also apostate. Somewhere apostate, which is not our region. But they've got to be sealed when they are keeping the Sabbath. You understand? And also, these, you remember when Leah was married, she could not bear any children. Yeah? So, Rachel, not Leah. Rachel did not bear any children. But now we see both of them had workers. The worker for Rachel was called Bilhah. Bilhah. And worker for Leah was called Zilpah. You get used to those names. This way they are domestic workers who were helping them look after themselves as wives. So Bilhah gave birth. Jacob went to compensate with Bilhah, and Bilhah is the one who gave birth to this son called Dan. So you see, Dan never came from Leah. Dan never came from Rachel. Dan came from the worker for Rachel. The domestic maid for Rachel was called Bilhah. Now, let's see here the blessing this child was given. You know, I said apostate, there is apostate, which is Rachel, and then these 2 mothers, the domestic workers, Zilpah and Bilhah, they are also waiting for those who will be sealed to be incorporated in the 144,000 or to start keeping the Sabbath, coming from Norway. Someone who was just out there and just heard the message and also come to join in. And it was a prophecy for these 12 children. And we know by right, Jacob had 13 children because there was a daughter there called Dinah. You remember Dinah? When he caused the people, the tribe of Shechem, to be destroyed by his brothers because he wanted them to be circumcised so that they marry her. And instead, who is that one? Reuben went and destroyed the whole Shechem. Right. So you see, we will study all those prophecies. But Dinah was the 13th now, but we'll hear about 12 tribes, which are the 12 tribes of Israel, which are the boys. Those are the boys which were counted because Dinah was going to be married anyway. Luke is trying to marry. You understand? So here in Genesis chapter 49, in chapter 30, verse 6, let's hear what was given, what Rachel called Dan. Because Bilhah has delivered a boy for Rachel. Rachel wasn't having any children by then. Let's hear what he said in verse 6.
And
30,
Rachel,
verse 6, yeah?
and Rachel said, God hath judged me,
Right?
and hath also heard my voice, and hath given me a son.
Uh-huh.
Therefore called she his name Dan.
You see, it's Rachel who called Dan, gave Dan the name. Born, delivered by her own maid, who had this boy. Yet this boy was being born to judge also. So it means this boy was very unique, a courageous boy. But he was standing in for the worship. The worship were all represented by Dan. We will see as we study. Is it true? Right. Let's read more about this. We have been told he was going to judge the tribes of Israel. Go to chapter 49, Genesis again, verse 17. Want to study this? And it represents the first of first fruits in the house of God, which God gave the message for the 144,000. And they start into forces that cannot be repressed. A message which no one will silence. That's a representative of Dan. So we are studying Dan's character, who is representing this group of worship. Right? Go to verse 17.
Dan shall be a serpent.
Listen, another property of Dan is a serpent. Did you hear that? This boy is invested with blessings. I don't know what a serpent will do. It means he's so wise like a serpent. That's why he says, be wise like a serpent and come like what? A dove. But there's something that God meant by be wise like a serpent. What the serpent is so wise? A snake. Wise. Represented by Dan. Let's hear more. Yeah?
Dan shall be a serpent.
Right?
By the way.
Right?
An adder in the path.
Right?
That biteth the horse's heels,
Uh-huh.
so that his rider shall fall backward.
Do you see how? Only just the heel. The rider goes down. That's the property of Dan. Representing the worship. So we have got a group, which is the worship, which is under the tribe of Dan. We saw that Dan became the 13th tribe, for he was replaced by Manasseh. If we find time as we study, we will see how he was replaced, for what reason. And we see another, because we know Joseph had two sons. One was called Manasseh, and the other one Ephraim. Ephraim was bigger than Manasseh. But when you find there is a double blessing with Joseph. So inside that, when you call Joseph, you are calling even Ephraim. So the tribes of Ephraim are all fused into Joseph. So that's why in the 144,000 we find Joseph also representing Ephraim. It's another prophet on its own. And then we have Manasseh separate. So we will study that. But they have replaced Dan, who is a representative of the first fruits, or the worship. Who will be judged first, who will be imbued first with the seal of God, and then carry that same message to the 144,000. So there is a group, whether we like it or not, because the type is there, the grains, that the priest would wave a Passover. So that was representing the first of first fruit. Now let's read again about this. Now we have known the properties of time. It's a snake. So it's a prophecy on its own. If we get time before Christ comes, we'll study all that. But we should share these valuable lessons if they are going to make us very whole again. And we see now how they are kept. If there was time, you see how they were being used, especially when Jacob was going to meet Esau, coming from his father-in-law, and was on his way going to meet Esau. He had to take all the children who were born by the maids for Leah and Rachel, put them in front to meet the army of Esau. While the children born by the Rachel and Leah were at the hind side. But who was in front? Dan. These children born by maids, they were put in front to meet the foe which was coming, which is Esau coming to fight Jacob. So you see how much they are so strong, these people represented by Dan. This happened. We will study it as well. Now let's go to how, for we said we should study who they are, the worship, and where are they? How did they get where they are? Where are they located, these people called Danites? Now I will say they are Danites, isn't it? Dan, they are Danites, right? Let's call them Danites in this lesson. But let's see how they were situated. For we know in the previous studies that the 10 tribes of Israel were scattered all over the nations, isn't it? But we want to see how they are being scattered. Now go to Numbers chapter 2, verse 25. Right?
The standard of the camp of Dan shall be on the north side by their armies.
Now they were on the north side of Israel by their armies. That's where they were. That's where they were situated. Right? And go to verse 31. Especially the last portion.
Okay. All they that were numbered in the camp of Dan were 150 and 7,600. They shall go hindmost with their standards.
Right. So they are going hindmost with their standards. Go to Ezekiel chapter 48. Why do we refer to Ezekiel? Because we are told by T.M. Testimony to Ministers, page 445, it says the sealing in Revelation 7 is the same as what Ezekiel was shown. So Ezekiel should play a very important part when we are studying the sealing. 48 verse 1, what does it say?
Now these are the names of the tribes.
Right.
From the north end
right.
to the coast of the way of Hethron.
Right.
As one goeth to Hamath.
Right.
Hazarenanan.
Right.
The border of Damascus.
Right.
Northward.
So that's with the north and side, the border of Damascus. That's where they were situated, the tribe of Dan, isn't it? Go again to Jeremiah chapter 4, verse 15. Then we hear again, at our time, there's something. We were told the tribe of Dan is going to judge, isn't it? By judging, we say it's going to proclaim a message to the 144,000 so that they take their stand and are sealed. And those who are not sealed, they are judged. This is the judgment we are talking about. So that's why we saw Dan being infested with that blessing as a judge. Now let's go to 4 verse 15, Jeremiah.
For a voice declareth.
When he is judging in our time, what does the voice say? The voice?
For a voice declareth from Dan.
You see?
And publish.
The message comes from the worship, or from the first of first fruits, or from the tribe of Dan. Because if the sealing process is done in the church, first, these children are there, first, there. But we are being told now who declares the message first. The voice
declareth from Dan.
And finish it off.
For a voice declareth from Dan, and publisheth affliction from the Mount Ephraim.
Right. So Dan is the one given the message to proclaim for the sealing process. The voice of Dan is the one which will judge or which will proclaim the message to the 144,000, or the teacher of teachers. Right? Verse 16.
Make ye mention to
Right.
the nations.
Right?
Behold, publish against Jerusalem, that watchers come from a far country, and give out their voice against the cities of Judah.
Right. So this is now a figurative of Jerusalem is the 10 commandment keeping people. So make ye mention, publish, judge. So this is the message which we are proclaiming, to say it is being proclaimed. First judgment begins in the house of God. But who is proclaiming? The tribe of Dan. Because we saw the 144,000 are coming from the 12 tribes. Reuben, Asa, Manasseh, all those, Joseph. But Dan is not there. Why? He's been singled out to do his work, to proclaim the message. So we have seen he's going to do that. It has been prescribed there. Verse 27.
For thus hath the Lord said, the whole land shall be desolate, yet will I not make you a full end.
Right. So he says, whole land but desolate, meaning it should be informed about the sealing message. Yeah? It will be. Go to Jeremiah chapter 5, verse 1.
Run ye to and fro through the streets of Jerusalem.
Dan, or the worship, shall run ye to and fro from the city of Jerusalem. Are they the ones keeping 3 times a year the feast? Run ye to and fro. They have been organized to do that. Right? And what?
Run ye to and fro through the streets of Jerusalem, and see now, and know, and seek in the broad places thereof, if ye can find a man, if there be any that executeth judgment, that seeketh the truth, and I will pardon it.
Right. So that's the job. It's running to and fro. We have been told by Daniel, you now know why Daniel is called Daniel. Why is he called Daniel? Come from the tribe of Dan. So we will see that. Let's see another property Dan was given. Go to Genesis chapter 49. On chapter 49, we see that there's where it says, Dan shall be a lion's whelp. If you can browse through, you find the verse. Have you found it? Right? So it tells us that Dan shall be a lion's whelp or a judge. Still, it's just a repetition of Dan shall be a lion's whelp. Oh, go to Deuteronomy chapter 33. I want to study that chapter to see what it means.
From verse 1.
Yeah.
And this is the blessing wherewith Moses, the man of God, blessed the children of Israel before his death.
Right?
And he said, the Lord came from Sinai and rose up from Seir unto them. He shined forth from the Mount Paran, and he came with 10,000s of saints. From his right hand went a fiery law for them. He loved the people. All his saints are in thy hand, and they sat down at the feet. Every one shall receive of thy words.
Right?
Moses commanded us a law, even the inheritance of the congregation of Jacob.
Right?
And he was king in Jeshurun, when the heads of the people and the tribes of Israel were gathered together.
Right?
Let Reuben live and not die.
Right?
And let
Go
not
to where
his...
he's talking about Dan. I think somewhere about, check on verse 8.
And of Levi, he said,
Okay, just go through them all. Yeah. Of Levi, and next, which one?
And of Levi, he said, Let thy Thummim and thy Urim be with thy Holy One,
Right.
whom thou didst prove at Massa, and with whom thou didst strive the waters of Meribah, who said unto his father
Right.
and to his mother,
Right.
I have not seen him, neither did he acknowledge his brethren, nor
Now,
knew.
Go to the next child.
And of Benjamin, he said, The beloved of the Lord
Right.
shall dwell in safely by him,
Right.
and the
Check
Lord.
The next child.
And of Joseph he said, Blessed of the Lord be his land, for the precious things of heaven, for the dew, and for the deep that coucheth beneath.
Right. Are the children finished? Because as you go through all the children, you will meet Dan.
Zebulun.
Next, what? Which one? Right. Never mind.
49 verse 9. 49 verse 9. Let's try.
Right. Go to Joshua then. Go to Joshua 19 verse 40.
And the border compasseth it on the north side to Hananoth, or Hanathon,
Right.
and the outgoings thereof are in the valley of Jiphthaleel, and Katath, and Nahalel, and Shimron, and Idalah, and Bethlehem, 12 cities with their villages. This is the inheritance of the children of Zebulun, according to their families, these cities with their villages.
Right. It's 19 verse 40. Right. And verse 47.
47.
I
And
want
the
the verse to
coast.
start and say, and the seventh Lot came out the tribe of the children of Dan. We have a verse like that. According to their families. Right?
Okay. You want
Right.
verse 47? And the coast of the children of Dan
Right.
went out too little for them. Therefore, the children of Dan went up to fight against Leshem,
Right.
and took it and smote it with the edge of the sword, and possessed it,
Right.
and dwelt therein.
Right. So when they were fighting these Leshemites, they possessed the land. And what did they do? They took the land. When they took the land, what did they do? They named the land. And each name, each land that they possessed, they would put the name of their father down. So the children went northward and were going all to the coast and spread all over. So if we want to find the children of Dan, it's the names that they left behind. When they possess a land, they put the name of their father. Their father's name was what? Dan. So how do we find the children of Dan? How do we find? We find where a name came after the name of the father, Dan. Where are these? They are, to them, the name Dan could be called as Don, or could be called as Dun, which is D-U-N, or could be called as Din, D-I-N, or could be called as Den, D-E-N. So this is where the land was captured by the children of Dan. Any land which is given that D-I-N or D-E-N or D-U-N or now read from Numbers. Numbers chapter 26, verse 50. Oh, right. Go there again.
Okay. These are the families of Naphtali,
Mhm.
according to their families.
Mm.
And they that were numbered of them were
Right.
45,400.
Right.
These were the numbered of the children of Israel, 600,000 and 1,730.
Right. So everywhere they were fighting any land, they put their father's name. So can we know if there are any lands with a name Dan or Din or Don or Dun or Den Den? Which ones could we come up with? Denmark, right? If there is Denmark, then it means the children of Dan left the name of their father. Then, that Den, before you say Mark, you find the children of Dan there. And also Edinburgh. Yeah? And what about, there is Din there. Anything with a sound of Din, Don, and where? London, which is Don. Did you see Don? And also where? Yeah? Any Din, any Den? Can you think of any Din or Den? Denmark, yes, we saw Denmark. We saw Sweden. There is Din. Why we came up with this Din, Den on is because the children of Dan labeled their father's name when they conquered those lands. When they were being spread all over the nations. So that's how we can trace the tribe of Dan and find out where they have settled. So when we saw that the voice will come. Now read from Joshua chapter 19, verse 41.
And the coast of their inheritance was Zorah, and Estaol, and Ishemash, and Shalabim, and Ajalon, and Jethla, and Elon,
Right.
and Thimnath.
Now, this is only to prove that God knows where all his children have been spread, especially the 10 tribes of Israel. But particularly we are tracing today the tribe of Dan. And when we are tracing it, what are we interested in? Because he has been left out to judge. Because he has been left out to be a representative of the worship. And we have seen where the children of Dan have been spread all over the world. Where have they gone? And that's why in Psalms 87, verse 4, God will say,
Verse 4. I will make mention of Rahab and Babylon to them that know me.
right?
Behold, Philistia and Tyre with Ethiopia. This man was born there.
Was born there. And what?
And of Zion it shall be said,
This man was born there.
and that man was born in her.
Right?
And the highest himself shall establish her.
Right?
The Lord shall count when he writeth up the people that this man was born there. Selah.
Right. So when he is now making the sealing process, he knows where the children have gone. When he said this one is under the tribe of Dan, is going to be a judge, and this one under the tribe of Zebulun is going to do this according to all the blessings that have been given on Genesis chapter 49. For in view of time, we are going to finish this lesson right there. Tomorrow we're going to continue, and we want to see exactly the whole sealing process and relocate. We have located today that the tribe of Dan is upper north. That's what it says. They are all sealed as first of first fruits, and we have been told how they. We will further where they came from. Their father came from which wife of Jacob. We have seen it was the maid to Rachel, which was Bilhah. And now we know this is the first group. But we say there are 4 groups in the sealing process. First of first fruits, which is the worship, and 144,000, which is the way of loaf or 2 loaves reckoned with leaven. And then we have what we call the second fruits, and then the Gentiles. But we will see the sealing process as we study the Bible all over the world. All over the pages, it will tell us where to locate what and what are we supposed to do, which tribe do we belong to, how are we going to be sealed. All that, because we have Revelation 7 sealing the 12 tribes of Israel, we've got to study all that. It's for us to settle, to fortify ourselves with the message of the sealing process. May God bless the lesson as we will proceed the next time when we meet to relocate, to identify which are the people being sealed by God. Thank you.